So welcome back to Faith on Friday. For the first case for this week, we are going back. We are going to Washington. However, there will be a point where I think we cross over into California. I'm just going to tag this location as Washington because that's where it mostly takes place. I guess if that makes sense. In this story, we're going to cover two brothers, like the title says. As you can imagine, just like the title, both the brothers wind up unfortunately passing away. And so it's the way they passed away and how our killers disposed of the victims. That's how the reason why I'm going to talk about this case today. And I imagine it's not that as well known as other cases. And so with that being said, if you knew anybody involved with this case, as always, let me know down below. I'm going to give us publicly known. I'm going to quit my rambling, and let's get started. Oh my gosh. So we're going to start with naming the two brothers that are basically the whole center report of the story. And so Conrad Anthony Morales was born on June 10th, 1992. And so the other brother, Ricky Carlos Morales, was born in October 1994. Their parents were apparently be suspects in a murder that happened in 1993, and the father actually winds up getting deported back to Mexico. So apparently, while under the care of the mother, because like I said, the father has since been deported back to Mexico, apparently Conrad would fall off a second-story window and break his arm. Luckily, that's all he broke, but he winds up breaking her arm. The same day, he has a 4-year-old sister who winds up ingesting PCP. I guess the mother had because she was doing it. I guess obviously she's the only adult in the house. She ingested it. The sister has to go to the hospital, and from what I could find, the sister wound up surviving, luckily. And so there would basically be at least 5 more reports of CPS that they apparently would eventually ignore. In 2004, apparently Rosa, their mother, apparently was on parole, which she apparently violates. She apparently goes back to jail for some drug charges. And so then, of course, Conrad, he's 13, he needs to go somewhere. So he winds up staying with Cathy and her husband. And her husband apparently is Rosa's brother. So uncle and aunt, essentially. And then, and so Raul, R-A-U-L, Raul, was born in 1967. And then Cathy was born July 6, 1976. And so then Ricky, he's 10, he wants to go stay with his grandmother. So Ricky, apparently only at 10 years old, he proceeds to confide in a teacher, who was a mandated reporter, by the way, that apparently life wasn't worth living. So then that teacher apparently makes a report, and Ricky's wanted to put in a mental institution. A social worker would tell Rosa, apparently, even though she's in jail and doesn't have custody of the kids, you have 1 week to get Ricky up there to Washington State, because they're staying in Washington State, with Raul and Cathy, or the two of your kids are going, both of your kids are going to foster care. So then Ricky apparently never gets enrolled in public school. Conrad would apparently wear makeup in order to hide the bruises, because obviously at this point you can imagine Raul and Cathy over abusing both of these kids. And apparently Conrad had confided in a friend, who the friend's also unnamed because I assume they're a minor. He apparently confided in a friend that Raul had been molesting. So then Rosa apparently gets out of jail. So I guess she didn't have a short jail sentence at all because it didn't even say what her sentence was. She gets out of jail. She's ready to take back Ricky and Conrad because these are her kids. And Raul basically says that he cannot afford the airfare to fly back both of your kids at the same time. So you have to wait a minute. And then also, by the way, Conrad had apparently, mind you, he was only 13. He's over telling his sister, yeah, your 13-year-old son apparently he had run off with an older gay lover. So then, of course, a social worker would actually come by Raul and Cathy's place because they're the one who has the kids, right? So then she tells them, oh, they actually, they're living in Sacramento, California right now. So then this social worker, bless her heart, they proceed to go on Christmas, which I guess they didn't let the fact that it was an actual holiday stop them. They proceed to go to Sacramento on Christmas Day to basically investigate, make sure these kids are okay, as you should, because that's her job. And she discovers, it's not until she gets to Sacramento that she discovers the address they gave me was fake. But this house does not exist in Sacramento. On August 22nd, 2005, Raul would apparently beat Conrad and then apparently put him in the bunk bed that him and Ricky had shared. And it's believed that Conrad had sadly died sometime over the course of that night, with his death legally being declared on August 23rd. And so that eventually in October that same year, so still 2005, they apparently moved from Washington State to Corona, California. Obviously, with Ricky still being alive at this point, they are obviously transferring Conrad's body. They then put Conrad's body in a concrete-filled trash bag and then apparently put him in the airport of the home. Their biological 1-year-old son would apparently have a birthday party sometime after they moved. And so they're having like a bouncy house for him and everything. And they put the bouncy house in front of the airport where Conrad's body is being stored. A neighbor would apparently see Ricky with a bruise from his eye all the way down to his chin. It was like purple. And then apparently she would see him 2 weeks later with a black eye while trying to hide his face with a sweatshirt. And then Cathy, I guess she was asked at some point what had happened. And then she said CPS is already involved. So then she, the neighbor, who apparently was unnamed, she apparently even offered for Ricky to stay with her while this, what she thought was a CPS case going on. And then Cathy had somehow basically convinced her that actually they're about to go back to their biological mother, Rosa. Even though clearly, as we see earlier, they had no intentions on bringing those two boys back to their mother. So then fast forward to Christmas 2005, Ricky would apparently refuse to eat the food that he had on the table. And so Raul would basically punish him by making him clean the bathroom. And so he apparently would kick him while he was trying to clean the bathroom, basically causing him to vomit, which I guess is a reaction to being kicked repeatedly. And so then Raul would basically proceed to kick him again multiple times. So then Raul would apparently drag Ricky to a closet and apparently kick and punch him there, would then proceed to leave him there, then apparently go eat his Christmas dinner, because it's Christmas, also his Christmas dinner. And then Cathy would claim that she came to check on him sometime later, didn't specify how much later, but she would come check on him later. Ricky, of course, he sadly dies, as you can imagine. And at this point, they apparently call police. Raul basically tries to say that, listen, I was just disciplining him, and I didn't mean to actually hurt Ricky. And so another interesting thing, cigarette marks were actually found on both the boys, like various marks all over their body, including their genitals. And Cathy's actually the only person in the house who apparently had smoked. So we clearly know where the cigarette burns came from, essentially. And so obviously, eventually, Conrad's body would eventually be discovered. They're charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, understandably. And so then Cathy, of course, would try to claim the good old battered wife excuse, basically saying, listen, Royal did all that, but I was being abused, so I couldn't really help them, even though, probably as a woman, you probably expect me to help them, but I couldn't because I was also being abused. So obviously, luckily, that did not work, and so both of them wanted being sentenced to death. And last I checked, they are both still currently on California's death row at the time I'm recording this video. And so with that being said, that is the case of the murder of the Morales brothers. Like I said, if you knew Ricky, Conrad, Cathy, Rosa, even Raul, anybody involved in the case, definitely let me know down below. If you know any other cases where I guess like both siblings died, because normally I normally cover one sibling dying, but this one was interesting. Both siblings had died, and one of them being undiscovered until like the second one died. And so with that being said, I cover fatal females 3 times a week. Subscribe to my fellow females, and see you guys next one. Bye.